Good morning, everyone. How are you guys? My name is Cha, and we'll be starting in a minute. Okay, but I'd like to welcome everybody for the fifth episode of the Sprout HR and Legal Experts webinar. All right. While we're still waiting for others to log in to this webinar. Okay. All right. So before we begin with the webinar, I'd like to remind everybody that there's going to be a raffle, all right, after this webinar. So here's how you can join. Collect all three words and get a chance to win 500 peso Lazada gift certificate later on. Okay, how do we do that? First, just collect all three words that will be flashed on your screens throughout the seminar. And then sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? Okay. And then follow our official Facebook page at Sprout Solutions PH. Comment all three keywords on the post pinned on our page. And then later on after the session, we'll be announcing 4 lucky winners. All right. And then we'll be sending the Lazada GC codes through email after the session before 3 p.m. All right. Okay. So thank you again for joining us here at the Sprout HR and Legal Experts by Sprout. I know that now is a very crucial time for HR, and a lot of us are adjusting in this situation. But again, with perseverance, with resilience, and great leadership, we'll get through this. Just to give you a brief introduction of who we are Sprout. We are an HR technology company that helps your organization taking it to the next level in terms of taking care of your people. We provide systems and support for recruitment, timekeeping to payroll, and analytics. Now, we hope to be able to help you lift up your team during this crisis. So today, we have 3 very knowledgeable attorneys and consultants who are here to give you different tips on how to lead your company from outbreak to breakthrough. All right. Please prepare your questions later on for the fireside questions, for the fireside chat session. And you can ask them anything with regards to the legal matters concerning our topic for today, which is managing business and employees remotely. All right. And then the personal productivity and virtual teamwork. Next slide, please. Okay, because remote work isn't just about your individual productivity. You've also got to figure out how to work together as a remote or virtual team. All right, next slide, please. Okay. So for our first speaker, are you guys excited to know our speaker? All right, I know that you're answering yes. So for our first speaker, he has 12 years experience of human resource management with progressively increasing scope and responsibility in the IT and BPO industries, consumer goods, manufacturing, and government sectors. At present, he practices the following fields of law: employment law, contract management, data privacy, administrative law, and family law as an advisor and an advocate. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Attorney Lester Nazarene Ople.
Good morning, Charlene. Good morning to our participants. Also, good morning to Attorney Ryan and Ray, our panelists. So thank you very much to everyone for taking time out and joining us today. So for the past several episodes of the Sprout webinar, from outbreak to breakthrough, we have been talking about what the organization, what employers can do for their employees so that everyone would be able to support, the employers would be able to support the employees during the period of the enhanced community quarantine. Now, we decided on doing something different for this episode. So we've been on community quarantine for the past 3 weeks. And we think that we have given enough information regarding how employers can best support their employees. So now we want to talk about the employer side, what can be done by the employer to ensure productivity and ensure that at the very least, if the company has decided that work from home is their adjustment to our new reality, then productivity is not sacrificed. So today we will be talking about remote working that works, and we will be giving personal productivity and virtual teamwork tips. And this is all based on how Sprout has done it. We were able to declare work from home very early. Our management was able to decide at least the day before the community quarantine that we were already on working from home. No? So with that, we are confident that we have at least been very productive, and all of our business objectives and KPIs have all been steaming along. And we want to share that what made us what we think made us successful in ensuring productivity during the period of community quarantine. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. So remote working is not about individual productivity. It's about, it's easy to work if you're an individual contributor because you just manage your deliverables for the shift. But in today's business reality, we all have our codependencies or dependencies with other teams, and our inputs are actually outputs from another team. So that said, we have to make sure that the whole team is able to have individual productivity, and then they are able to collaboratively, drive that productivity to still deliver the business outcomes desired. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So let's talk about the first set of tips that we want our individual employees to have in their respective places at home or elsewhere that they want to deliver the work. So for the employee, the first tip is that choose a quiet, safe, and distraction-free workspace. We have a virtual background on Zoom, but I am fortunate enough that my wife and I live in a place that we have an office type room dedicated, because we both are in the corporate world. So we actually have a 2-screen setup here. So I have my own laptop. She has her own laptop at work, and then we have our own external screen. No, so I am actually able to pan to 2 screens right now. That's not, of course, required. It just so happened na pareho po kami ni wife na our work is corporate in nature, so we both have these adjustments to our lifestyle, how we set up our house. So please choose a quiet, safe, and distraction-free working space. It's easy if you're alone, no? You just have a place that it's a proper table with accessible na outlet and then proper lighting. Okay ka na. But for families, it's a little bit difficult. So please, if you are unable to set aside an actual room, at the very least have a space na nakakagalaw ka. Okay? Next slide, please. Of course, an internet connection should be adequate for the job requirements. Hindi po kailangan na very high yung ating bandwidth. What is only required is something that would allow you to do the basics. So something that would allow you to send and receive emails, join video conferencing calls if required, and then do the voice over IP technologies like WhatsApp, Skype, what have you. No? So a possible question here would be, will a company have to cover the cost of an internet connection? We'll discuss that in our Q&A. Okay, next slide, please. Of course, dedicate full attention to job duties during work hours. The immediate superiors should regularly monitor progress during this period. Ano pong ibig sabihin nito? This means that if you are set on an 8-hour work shift, then during that 8 hours, it's better that you're actually just working on what you need to work on. Hindi po yung tipong, alam mo yun, you're on Netflix or you're on something else. If you're on a work hour, please deliver the work. Okay? And of course, you have to coordinate with your supervisor, with your managers regarding the deliverables that are expected of you during this period. Okay, next slide, please. Adhere to break and attendance schedules agreed upon with the immediate supervisor. So normally our lunch break during the workday, all of these happens around 12 to 1, no? So if you have a break schedule, it's really better to stick to that break schedule rather than um, dire-diretso yung work. Why? Because the human attention span can only accommodate so much. If you are on an Excel file for hours on end, makalimutan mo mag-break, baka naman yung accuracy natin yung maging sacrifice doon. No? So it's better to adhere to your regular break schedule, have a dedicated lunch break, step away from your laptop, step away from whatever you are working on, and just enjoy the break because you are also entitled to that, excuse me, to that break during the workday. Next slide, please. Um, Humans are inherently social beings, no? So one of the adjustments for Sprout, no, is that a lot of us are used to working in close proximity with each other, and now we're just in front of a screen. So the collaboration will definitely take a hit. Whereas when we were on a regular office setup, business development, legal, we can just reach out to each other and then immediately have a meeting, na stand-up meeting. Now it no longer happens that frequently. So it's better if there are frequent touch points where supervisors and the team members can meet online to discuss progress, results, and I think an important point here is if there are any challenges to delivering the work, it would also be better that the managers and supervisors are apprised at an early time regarding challenges for the team members on delivering their work. Okay. One more thing, no, in terms of the enhanced community quarantine, we would like to share that we're actually we are very aware as to the stress level that the community quarantine has, caused to everyone, especially those who are still working. So we do have some initiatives regarding mental health and wellness for our employees. It would be better if an employer who implemented a work from home status would also have something like this. So this is one of those initiatives. And then tomorrow, actually, we will be having our first virtual GA. So it's a monthly meeting for all employees of Sprout. So ito po yung aming social aspect to working from home. No? We will be tomorrow, we will be having our virtual GA wherein our executives will be discussing business results as well as the plans moving forward. And then next week, before Holy Week, before the company breaks for the Holy Week, we will be on a mental wellness program just to make sure that, after all of the productivity that was that we were still able to drive during the community quarantine period, yung mental wellness naman na aspect ng ating employees yung ating i-address. Okay, so it would be very, we think that it's a best practice for us, and we hope that if your company implemented work from home, then you will also have something like that. Okay. Okay, so we're now on the next slide. This is the second raffle keyword, which is productivity. So we hope that you were able to capture the first raffle keyword because we are on the second raffle keyword. Okay. And then for employees working in a household with children or other unavoidable distractions such as pets or senior citizen parents, please inform the employee should inform the immediate superior on how this will impact their deliverables as well as what kind of help is needed. For example, if you are an employee managing a seniors in your household and may schedule kayo ng pagpapakain or pagbibigay ng medications and that schedule is non-negotiable, then make sure that your managers allow sufficient leeway for the employees to have those adjustments in their schedule. Remember, in a work from home status, ano yung importante dito? It's really the productivity, not really, adherence to schedule. So if you are aware that your employees have such special concerns or special needs during the remote work period, please allow them that kind of bandwidth. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, let's go to progress monitoring. So yung kanina, it talked about how employers, or rather employees and their managers can align regarding in making the best environment possible to deliver work of a high quality during the community quarantine period or during the work from home period. Now, this one is intended for management, for the management uh, people who are monitoring the progress of our employees. Okay, next slide, please. Make sure that your organization, your team, your department regularly use official company email addresses for professional emails, such as correspondences to clients and stakeholders. There are instances when you're working from home, you may have another email address that you are regularly working on. For example, if the person opted to do an Outlook and then nakasync din doon lahat ng email addresses niya, there is a risk, no? Not only productivity risk, but it's also a data privacy risk that company official email addresses would be, would not be used rather for correspondence to stakeholders. So it is better if you regularly check and ensure that all of your team members are on the official company email addresses rather than another email address in doing your communications. Okay? Right. And then for management, to ensure that the delivery of the business results are not compromised, the management and the manager must have the employees' contact information details so that in cases of emergencies or meron tayong urgent deliverables, there are immediate avenues where communication may be made. For example, if there are business critical updates or security updates, especially now, no, yung ating government issuances are very much volatile, no, for lack of a better term. It's better that management and employees, the rank and file, have easy access to each other. There may be instances as well na um, an employee needs to reach out to an immediate manager or that immediate manager is not immediately available. So at least meron kayong tinatawag natin na call tree or communication tree where breakdown of a communication would be reported immediately to the next person up or down the line as applicable. Okay, next slide please. So for for Sprout, we are actually officially on Slack and WhatsApp. These are just two of the suggested applications. Your organization may have unique communication needs that would not be available on these platforms. So please work with your IT departments to make sure that you are able to, use the proper tools that are responsive to the needs of your organization. Okay, next slide, please. All right, this is one of our best practices as well. At the start of every shift, we have what we call a DSM or a daily stand-up meeting. This is akin to a huddle. So team huddle lang to before the shift. And this is done via video call. And this is where we align on deliverables for the day as well as what was completed yesterday, no? And we explicitly required our teams to not go with chat or messenger lang in terms of DSM. So the requirement is everyone on the department or on the team is in the video call doing the daily team stand-up meeting or DSM, and ikot talaga yan na merong naka-designate na, okay, who will drive it, and then isa-isa tayong kamustahan. What was completed yesterday? What do you intend to complete today? Ganun yung ano natin, no? It doesn't have to be a very long meeting. It just has to address, it's more psychological, really. It's psychological because it primes the person and the team into a particular framework na, okay, for today, this is what we need to do because yesterday, this is what we completed. Okay? Next slide, please. Google Calendar, Google Hangouts, or Meet. So if you are just on WhatsApp or Slack and then nag-uusap lang yung mga tao na, okay, let's meet later at around 2 o'clock, it would be very difficult to track two things. It would be difficult to track yung actual meeting, and then for documentation purposes, yung completion nyo, no, nung meeting. So if you have Google Calendar or Hangouts Meet, or other organizations may have Microsoft, the Outlook 360 or Microsoft Teams, maximize these online tools to make sure that appointments, virtual meetings, and more importantly, the action items from these meetings would be addressed and documented. Okay, right. So it's inevitable that people would have challenges doing work from home, no? And this should not be construed na dapat ang i-raise lang na challenge ng ating employees are work-related. If they have personal challenges, for example, they are the designated tribute or the designated grocery person for the day. I used the word tribute because there was a meme going around referencing, what's that movie? Mockingjay? Referencing that the person designated as the grocery person will be the one to secure the needs of the household. So please make accommodations. No? These challenges at least are aligned prior. Wag lang nating sanayin yung employees natin na, kaya pala ako offline kahapon kasi kailangan ko pong lumabas. Bumili ako ng medicines for my senior citizen parents. Wag nating sanaying after the fact sila mag-notify. No? Make sure that they are forward enough to say na, sir, I have a chore today. I need to go out, secure medicines and grocery for the household. Can I adjust my work hours? It's better to do it that way because, again, we live in extraordinary times and this may or may not be the new normal. So let's make accommodations for each other that way. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, you will, as a manager, you will come across an employee who obviously does not lift his or her weight in terms of delivering the work of the department, and you may need to go to a decision na it may be better if we put this person on forced leave rather than requiring him to be online pa. No? So make sure that you have clear and importantly documented deliverables that is clear to the employee that if they fail these particular deliverables, they would need to, or rather management would need to arrive at a decision regarding putting the employee on forced leave. No? So for example, the employee frequently, frequently ang challenge na is, sir, I need to go out, I need to do grocery, I need to secure medicines, and then wala na talaga siya na-accomplish. So you have the option to put that person on forced leave. In which case, you have the option to, we discussed in the prior episodes of this webinar, you have the establishment reporting form where you submit to the Department of Labor the list of employees who are on forced leave. And then, the employee will no longer be required to work from home. Pero, syempre, ikakaltas nyo sa kanyang leave credits yung kanyang pagiging on leave so as to ensure na paid pa rin siya. Okay? Next slide, please. Should there be, again, the manager has the discretion, but let's be fair also to our employees. Let's be forward and document with them na these are your deliverables, and nagkaroon na tayo ng decision na meron siyang compromise. The employee is unable to deliver the work, and we were able to notify the employee na, oy, you're no longer productive, you're not meeting our deadlines, and you're not contributing to our business results as a department. We are putting you on forced leave. Now, that employee may very well come back and say na, sir, I am now able to deliver the work. Can we resume working from home? So you document that as well, and then get the documentation, what was the circumstances that changed, For example, bigay tayo ng concrete example dito. For example, an employee has, there's an emergency that requires the employee to exit Manila or NCR and go home to the province. And meron siyang arrangements on being able to do that. No? The employer naman is not bound to give additional assistance beyond what is required in the employment contract, no? But kailangan niya lumabas ng Maynila. Kailangan niya umuwi ng probinsya and manage something there. So you document it na nag-request siya, and then ito yung period niya, and then babalik naman siya after, let's say, 7 days. So kapag mas maikli yung 7 days na period na wala siya sa Manila and compromising internet connectivity niya or hindi niya talaga magagawa yung work, pero nag-return siya before the end of that 7-day period, pwede namang i-revert siya into fully active status and then continue yung work from home niya. This would be a lot easier if you actually have an HRIS that you can just click and shift yung employee regarding yung status nila. So tools like ours in Sprout would be very helpful in tracking cases like this from an HR and payroll timekeeping perspective. Okay, let's go to the daily time report. Next slide. So maganda po yung segue ko kasi papunta ako sa actually reporting of tools, what we are doing here in Sprout. Okay, next slide please. So Sprout, as mentioned by Charlene earlier, we are an HR software and productivity application or software. So we have our options of either web bundy, may URL po sa website or web browser that your employee would need to go into and then magla-login sila doon. Or in the case of Sprout, we have our mobile app. Our employees can just use their mobile phones and then log in and out using the mobile app. This is actually one of our promotions at the moment. If you are a small and medium enterprise and you require a timekeeping and payroll solution for the period of the community quarantine, please reach out to us. We will make sure that you are, our sales persons would be able to reach out to you. But our mobile app is actually geo-fenced. So in regular times, yung mobile app namin, you can only log in through the mobile app if you are within the vicinity of the office. But now that we're on work from home, that geo-fencing feature is turned off, and we just allow our employees to log in wherever they are because we're all on work from home. Okay, so I want to reiterate, so if you are an MSME with 50 or less employees, you may be qualified to avail of the rescue kit. So you can get the web bundy and mobile app for free for a period of time. So please reach out to us about it. Okay. Next slide, equipment. This is also another sticky topic. Next slide, please. So this is what we call tools of the trade. So your employees will be given equipment. For example, if you are, like Sprout, you will have laptops issued to your employees, no? Or you have the alternate option of going on a BYOD or bring your own device. Sprout allows both. Pero if Sprout issues you, an employee, a laptop, the laptop is required to be password protected upon login. No? Next slide, please. And then, of course, before the lockdown happened or the community quarantine happened, this is more particular for legal. No? So we did bring home some of our documents. Of course, medyo iba naman po yung security ng legal documents. No? But if you have your laptop or other equipment issued to you by your employer, then let's take care of the equipment issued to us by storing it safely and in a clean place when not in use. So kami naman to share, my home naman has a home office. So all of my equipment is in this room. Okay? If not, then you have the option naman of using mega boxes and stuff. And the next slide, this is very important. So we now are outside the premises of the office. Dahil wala na tayo sa office, yung firewalls natin, yung lahat ng security measures na available sa office hindi na natin ma-avail right now. So it's very important to make sure that all data encryption, protection standards, and settings are adequately in place for your employees to be able to do work remotely. So for Sprout, at least, aside from the requirements sa amin na lahat kami when we use our email system, the attachments are disabled and we have to manually do some steps so that we can send out from the Sprout email system another email. So if we're sending within Sprout, okay lang kaming may attachment. Pero if it goes out to an external email domain, we are required to do some manual steps to be able to send that email out with an attachment. So yun yung measure namin. Aside from that, the HR component of data privacy and security is very important. As a matter of fact, this week alone, we had two virtual sessions where we had a data privacy bootcamp. So parang ang ano namin is having these security measures are good, but who is ultimately responsible for data protection and data security? It is the person, no? So if the person is adequately tooled and equipped, yung data protection automatic na yan because it becomes a way of life. Okay, so it's important that employees are apprised of that particular fact. Next slide, please. Okay, for company-owned devices, there is a restriction on downloading and installing suspicious, unauthorized, or illegal software. So if you are on a company-owned equipment or laptop, we are unable to install tools, applications, and programs without the approval of our IT department. So it becomes a little different if you are on a bring your own device setup, but at the very least, if you are issuing company software or equipment, ensure that nobody can install without your permission. Okay, next slide, please. Of course, during the period of community quarantine, lahat naman ng rules, policies, and procedures are in place, no? So, an important reminder to every employee during the community quarantine period is to comply with company policies and standards in ating code of conduct, yung ating, policies and regulations regarding the employment natin are all intact and in place. Wala namang nasuspend. So please abide by all of those policies and standards, more particularly data privacy and information security. One issue here is that if there's a data privacy incident, it's a lot more difficult to manage it if everyone is remote compared to everyone being in a single place, no? So to minimize the possibility of having a data incident, make sure that all of your employees are aware of and abide by the company policies and standards, especially on data privacy and information security. Okay, that concludes our session. But before we turn it over for the Q&A session, we're going into the keyword number 3.
Right. Tama, Attorney Lester. And thank you very much for that informative session. I hope a lot of our attendees have gained a few knowledge about working remotely efficiently. Yeah, so for the third keyword, it's management. Okay, but to recap, I hope you get the two other keywords. But let me recap it for you. The first is home. The second is productivity, as mentioned by Attorney Lester in the middle of his presentation. And then the third is management. Okay, so before we proceed to the next portion of the event, again, let us read also the instructions on how you can win the GC. Next slide, please. Okay. Again, so you can now submit the keywords. Next slide, please, so we can go through the mechanics of the promo. So the 3 keywords, you can post it, you can comment sa pin post namin sa Facebook. So you can win the GCs. All right. Now we proceed to the panel discussion, the panel session. So to introduce our first panelist, let's welcome Mr. Ray Salvador. He is a seasoned audit and risk management professional with 9 years of experience from various industries like IT, BPO, tech companies, manufacturing, real estate, financial institution, and service companies. He had performed a wide range of engagements from conducting audit in finance, IT, operations, compliance, and taxation for assisting companies in establishing their risk management procedures, including business continuity plans, and he is a certified public accountant and ISO 3100 certified lead risk management. And for our second panelist, he's a data privacy officer and HR and legal consultant of Sprout Solutions. He has previously worked in reputable law firms and private companies as a labor and tax lawyer, counseling mostly for HR practitioners and company managements. He's a proud alumni of Georgetown University, where he obtained his degree in human resources management, focusing on labor relation and diversity and inclusion. He also holds a dual degree in law and business from the De La Salle University Far Eastern University Consortium. Let's all welcome Attorney J. Ryan Trinidad. I think Attorney.
Thank you, Cha.
Yeah. Attorney J. Ryan, you've actually started asking and being collaborative with our attendees earlier, and they've been sending their questions. Yeah. How is it so far? But for this one, we have collated a few questions.
Right. So I was sending them questions actually, but sorry, Cha, my internet connection is unstable right now. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine. We are expecting some technical difficulties during webinars, naman.
No, I was just telling that I already threw some questions for our attendees. So feel free to share whatever insights they have so that all of us can learn from each other's experience. No?
Okay. We have collated a few questions, Attorney J. Ryan. No? So the first question is, what are the legal lookouts when transitioning to remote work?
I'll pick that question up. Maybe Attorney Ryan has something to add. But for in terms of transitioning to remote work, number one would be compliance with Department of Labor issuances. Before the community quarantine was issued, the Department of Labor released Labor Advisory 9-2020, wherein employers have the option to put employees on flexible work arrangements. So this can range from rotation of employees, reduction of work hours, work from home, and what all of us wanted to avoid, which is a temporary closure. So there is a reporting form that you must submit to the Department of Labor having jurisdiction over the workplace. And then, of course, one more thing there is if you are on flexible work arrangement that is not temporary closure or not reduction of work hours, please make sure that you are complying with the age-old principle called non-diminution of benefits. So if the employees are already employing benefits, they cannot be simply removed by the reason of the flexible work arrangement.
Okay. Attorney J. Ryan, do you want to add anything to what Attorney Lester has mentioned?
Yeah, can I add also, Attorney Lester, that just yesterday, I think April 1, right? But we received this yesterday that the Department of Labor also issued another advisory saying that employees under the probationary period, the ECQ is not part of that, right? But we are still clarifying the guidelines on how would that really impact our probationary employees. But unfortunately, Dole is not answering. No, I'm trying to call them since this morning, but no response from them yet. Yeah, but the advisory states that for probationary employees, the lockdown period or the ECQ period will not be counted. So that's another consideration that they have to take in.
All right. Thank you very much, attorneys. For the second question naman, should the practice of working remotely be in the contract of employees?
Well, Charlene, it's not necessarily, no, because usually the work from home happens when the company needs to declare a BCP or business continuity plan. And business continuity plan activates only when there are natural disasters or human-induced hazards that prevent them or that disrupt the business operations. No, so it's not necessary that it should be part there. But of course, at the very beginning or during the onboarding of the employees, the employer should be very clear and transparent to them that if that scenario happens, they should be very open to WFH arrangements.
Okay. Attorney Lester, anything to
Yeah.
add?
Yep. One thing there is, ano, no, if it may not be in your company employment contract, it has to be in another policy, no. So there are, Attorney Ryan mentioned the BCP. That's correct, kasi the Department of Labor issued an advisory regarding how employers can implement the flexible work arrangement. But there's an older issuance called Labor Advisory 2-2009, and another one which is a telecommuting app which is passed only last year. So if you are exploring seriously work from home as a viable arrangement, because if you are on work from the office, you are incurring two additional costs. No? One is real estate cost. Number two is utility cost. Uh, Being able to reduce those costs would translate into significant savings for an employer. So you have two labor issuances already, the telecommuting app, which was passed by Congress last year and signed by the President, as well as Labor Advisory 2-2009 na nagdi-discuss naman ng work from home, and the other one is compressed work week. No? So our Sprout employee or clients can actually tap into resources like the HR legal consulting service for them to be able to have the assistance that they need to be able to comply with these labor issuances.
And
Okay.
piggybacking on that, Charlie, no? So, kung yung kontrata talaga ay hindi naman necessarily na dapat ilagay yon, because the pandemic is a force majeure, meaning to say it excuses actually the employer to strictly tell their employees to go to work kasi ito naman is already beyond our control. So, there should be some flexibility there on the part of the employer na pwede sila mag-implement ng work from home.
Right.
Especially this is already a legal mandate from the government. So, the employers now have no excuse but to implement it.
Okay. Thank you for that. It's actually a good transition to the third question, no, attorneys? Kasi the third question, dito ba pumapasok yung employees' privacy rights for remote work?
Sorry, Chuck, can you clarify the question on the privacy rights of employees, please?
Okay. Ano daw, or what are the employees' privacy rights for remote work?
For employee, so for employee data privacy rights, employees remain to be data subjects. So being data subjects, all of their rights, the right to inform, the right to refuse access, the right to rectification, the right
Portability.
to be informed, portability of all, ng rights na nakalagay sa Data Privacy Act are still available to them. I think the other question there would be, ano ba yung information na nilang regarding their employees? So ang sa akin is, the employee has a relationship with the employer, but the household does not. No? So if the employee opts not to disclose the medical condition, for example, of the senior citizen parents or living with him or her in the household, wala tayong right as employers to require them to disclose that information. Remember, another principle embodied in the data privacy law, which is proportionality. Kung ano lang yung kailangan ni employer na information or data from the employee so that the legal rights of the employer are preserved or protected, yun lang ang kailangan niyang malaman. So, the status of the health status of the household, hindi kailangan malaman ni employer. What else? I think off the bat, yun yung nai-imagine ko.
Okay. Attorney J. Ryan, any
But
additional?
let me also Yes. Let me also qualify that, no, Attorney Lester, because your employer is mandated by the Department of Labor to disclose some confidential information about the employees, such as your salaries, no, because salaries are considered sensitive
Yes.
personal information under the Data Privacy Act. But for that scenario, the employer need not get the consent of the employee simply because it is a legal mandate from the Department of Labor to require all these employers to get to share the confidential information of these employees, no. So in that scenario, pwedeng hindi na kuhanin ang consent ni data subject o
Yeah.
ni employee. So isa yun sa mga hindi naman na-waive na right, but isa yun sa mga
Yes.
area na pwedeng gawin ni employer.
Mm.
Correct. I think that's in particular to the employee establishment report form.
Correct. Yes.
Wala pong
And
rights si employee. Correct. Tama na si employee kasi, or rather the employer has the legal excuse because it's a legal requirement of the
Mm-mm.
DOLE for them to release the 5,000 camp assistance.
Yes. Mm-mm. All right. Okay. We have 4 more questions, attorneys, ha? So the next question is, how do you effectively monitor your staff's productivity, considering the tendency of the staff to slack off and to provide haphazard work outputs when left unsupervised? Ayan, magandang tanong to.
Yeah. Siguro, if you were, the slides will be shared naman, no? So please pay attention to the interventions that at least for Sprout, we were able to prove in our experience na gumagana siya as interventions. In particular, what are these? Number 1 are the daily stand-up meetings. Number 2 are the regular touch points between the department heads and their personnel. And then lastly, yung ating timekeeping, no? It's important that you track the time that your employees are actually working because it drives 2 things. Number 1 is pay, the other one is productivity. So this would be an instance where you can actually leverage technological tools such as Sprout software to track and report all of these information. As a matter of fact, Sprout has a module called Insights, which can drive the analytics, no?
Right.
The HR analytics of our productivity, how many hours, and then you correlate that with the work output ng each department, then you can arrive at a very good estimate of the productivity of your organization, even if they are working from home.
Right. In terms of tools naman, attorneys, are the employers required to give financial assistance to telephone, internet, or any work-related utilities for their employees working from home?
Do you want me to answer that, Attorney Lester? Well,
Go ahead,
the
Attorney Ryan.
employer, of course, is not required to. No, it's not their legal obligation to provide their employees, but to make sure that I'm sorry, but to make sure that the business is continuing and there's no disruption in your services, in your delivery of your products and services to your clients. No, as much as possible, provide these tools or these packages to your employees if you can. No, so I think. So the short answer there is that, of course, there's no legal obligation, but as part of your business continuity plan, there should be a contingency for that. I think Ray can also dovetail on that.
Yes, just to add, for example, if these employees' role are critical or their deliverables are critical to the company, maybe you can quantify the cost of the work tools, for example, internet packages, compared to the output or the potential revenue that they will provide to the company. So if the benefit is much higher compared to the cost, I suggest that you provide the work tools required for these employees.
All right, great. We're down to our last 2 questions, attorneys, and to our panelists. But for the attendees, if you have any further questions na hindi namin mako-cover, just email us and we'll try to, as much as we can to answer all of them. Okay? So for the second to the last questions, attorneys or panelists, during ECQ and work from home setup, is it legal to deduct employee salary by 50% and mandate they will work 3 days only instead of 5 days?
That scenario is called reduction of work days, no? So reduction of work days is allowed subject to the notification requirement na meron siyang establishment report form. So ang ano natin is if your employee, if your business cannot accommodate full work from home, meaning hindi kayo capable to deliver the work and correspondingly the pay of employees for full 5 days a week, you have the option to reduce the work days ang objective ng batas, bakit inaalaw to, is it's more desirable to maintain employment rather than just cause the closure of a business. In such case, you have to do two things. Number one, you align with your employees. You explain to them the situation and document with them yung particular na effect sa kanila. Will they be reduced to 3 days a week or 2 days a week, or magro-rotate kayo para lahat 5 days a week may sweldo, or parang week 1, Group A, week 2, Group B, and then week 3, Group A ulit. These are permutations on work schedules allowed by the law, provided that you comply with the establishment reporting form set forth in Labor Advisory 9-2020.
All right. Now, if there's a pending disciplinary case naman, and then the decision was finalized during the ECQ, is it advisable to impose the penalty during this period, yung ECQ period?
Let's do two things. No? First, let me explain the legal aspect. Second, I want to explain the practical aspect.
Yes, please.
So the legal aspect, the only requirement for a disciplinary action, whether it's termination or suspension, is that you comply with the notice requirements set out in the case called King of Kings versus Mamak. No? So ano yung requirement na yun? Number one, meron kang notice to explain, requiring the employee to explain why he or she should not be disciplined, and also stating in the notice kung ano yung particular facts alleged to be a violation. Number two, there is, if your company handbook or company policy requires it, meron siyang written explanation or administrative conference already completed. And lastly, there is a notice directed to the employee notifying him of or her of the results of the investigation and the process, and narrating the factual and the legal basis why the disciplinary action is imposed on him or her. If you're able to complete that during the period of enhanced community quarantine, then there is no legal impediment as to the disciplinary action. Let me move to the practical side. Kung naka-work from home kayo, then you would have company mobile phone, company laptop, all of these things, no? All of these things would be in the possession of your employee. If you terminate at this point, what will allow you to recover those particular items from him or her? Yung work tools niya, yung confidential information in his or her possession. No? So, timplahin nyo rin. Kasi for example, if the employee went home to the province for the community quarantine and then ita-terminate nyo siya, tapos email lang yung notification, paano yung recovery? And how do you actually prove that it was sent, that the notice telling him that he is terminated is also sent to him? No? So your email system may have something like a red receipt, or the preferable there is really registered mail with return card. Bukas po ba ang ating post offices? I don't think so. No? So yung mga bagay na ganun, yung kailangan nating i-consider. The legal rights of course of employees and employers are intact and preserved during the period of quarantine, but let's go to the practical aspect also.
All right, great insight, Attorney Lester. Now down to the last question. This is regards naman to the recently passed act, which is the Telecommuting Act. What does it mean daw by under Section DOLE shall be responsible for baselining, scoping, and profiling research work prior to implementation? Does it mean that as this act can be implemented yet?
Laws are actually, telecommuting law has been signed into law by the President. I think this was November last year, no? And then the requirement for laws to take effect is only 15 publication in the official gazette or newspaper of general circulation for a period of 15 days prior to effectivity. I am certain that the Department of Labor has promulgated the IRR already. No? So, ibig sabihin nito, effective na yung law, option na siya to be availed of ng lahat ng employers. It's in the DOLE website. Now, the baselining and other policy implications of the Telecommuting Act, requirement po yan ng batas sa DOLE because the context po ng ating Telecommuting Act is that the telecommuting option was viewed as a possible solution or supportive solution to the problem of traffic. Ngayon po, hindi natin problema ang traffic. No? So, with that, I think ang ano natin ngayon is telecommuting as a law remains a valid option for the private sector. That said, you have three ways to implement telecommuting now. Number one is through the establishment report form as stated in Labor Advisory 9-2020. The other one is the compressed work week stated in Labor Advisory 2-2009. And then number three is yung Telecommuting Act na IRR mismo ng DOLE. No, so all of these are still valid, binding, and available options for employers. You have to make a decision as a management team whether you will be availing of it on a more permanent basis. But in the absence of clear management decision, allowed po siya ngayon dahil sa enhanced community quarantine.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Lester. Anything to add, panelists?
Yeah, I would just like to address something from the questions. So, si Miss Cynthia Garcia, I can't see the complete name. So, i-enumerate ko po yung labor advisories regarding ECQ. No? So, meron tayong Labor Advisory 9-2020 hanggang meron na po ngayon 14. May dispute pa po yung 14, hindi pa po namin kinaklarify yun. No? So, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13A, and then yung 14. Marami na po. Nasa DOLE website po yan lahat. Some of them may not be applicable to you. There's also Department Order 209 and 210. So 209 pertains to the camp, yung ating 5,000 pesos employment assistance. And then 210, Department Order 210 pertains to temporary work. So ang trabaho po na ito for our minimum wage earners, they can go to the DOLE peso offices in their respective LGUs and they will be given work for 10 days. Ang trabaho pong ito is disinfection of the LGU premises. So for 10 days, bibigyan sila ng sweldo na minimum wage for the region. And then sila yung mga kasama ng mga frontliners natin na nagdi-disinfect ng outside ng mga palengke, ng mga ospital, ng mga public places. Yun po yung Department Order 210.
All right. Thank you for clarifying, Attorney Lester. Unfortunately, our time is up for the panel session. So for questions now we're unable to answer, please email it to legal@sprout.ph and we'll try as much to answer all of them. All right. And now, for the moment that we've all been waiting for, we'll be announcing the 4 winners of our raffle promo. Okay, drum roll, please. So for the first winner, it's Chris Sepe. For the second winner, Miriam Joyce P. Lugtu Delim. Third, Francis Fernandez. And the last winner is Justine Rose Justo or Justo. I'm so sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. So these are the winners for a raffle promo. You'll be receiving the gift certificate before 3 p.m. today. All right. So before we end, I'd just like to inform everyone that with Sprout HR and Payroll, you can continue your work at the comforts of your home, given that we offer a cloud-based system. Also, for our upcoming events like this, please follow our social media pages flash on your screens on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and even Twitter. So you can also use the hashtags below, outbreak to breakthrough, business as usual, work with Sprout, and etc. So for you to be updated with our posts. All right. So we can also send you e-certificates for attending this session. For the instructions, kindly email a request to info@sprout.ph. Just please indicate your full name, company, and position. Thank you again, everybody, for attending this webinar, the 5th episode of this webinar. Stay safe, everybody. And
Thank you,
TGIM.
everyone.